guys, so we are getting ready to give away TD number 200. We've been talking about it for a long time, but we're at a very important part of the process, and it's the mixing stage. And I wanted to just sit down with Rhett. He mixes everything we do at Tune Designer, and he's amazing at it. And I wanted him to just explain a little bit about the process, some of the tools we use. And so why don't we play we've already done a lot of mixing on it. Why don't you play the kind of finished product, just a little taste, and then we'll play the rough mix and kind of show them what you're doing here.
All right.
So that's going to be kind of the finished sound. We're almost done with it, but play what you've done, Brett. We can contrast it with like a rough mix that we've got here.
So here's the rough mix we started with, kind of what you heard on Facebook. And you might want to put some headphones on for this. It might help you really hear the difference. So that's the rough mix, and here's the final mix.
So guys, it's going to be an awesome track. Somebody's going to give it. We're going to give it away. We're going to award it to the best idea, and I'm going to let Rhett kind of go in depth here, and we're just going to focus on drums. And we're going to solo out some things. He's going to actually show you some tools that he uses. Let's pull him up something, kind of let him hear the raw kit that we have, and then just kind of talk about some of your favorite plugins, Rhett, that you like to use.
All right, so here's the drums. I'll play you what we my final mix version of them after all the processing. And let me play you that with no processing on it. We do a lot of mixing to these, but we mix George a lot, so we kind of know what we like and kind of how our room sounds. So this is the drums with no processing. So that's what we started with, and I'll kind of solo out each mic that we got on the kit to kind of show you how we build the drums. So I always start with the kick. So here's the raw kick that we recorded. And then I've got 3 plugins I've got going on it. This first one's just a little EQ, so I'll activate it. It's just getting rid of some of that extra low end that you don't need in the mix. And we're boosting a little bit at 144. And then this next one here is it's actually a new one, and it's a harmonic plug-in, and it gives a little more punch to that low end. And then probably my most recent favorite plug-in that I've got going on is the SSL channel strip, and it just makes it really come out. And the next thing I like to do is a snare. Kick and snare are probably the two most important things on a track, almost, besides the lead vocal. So here's the raw snare with no processing.
Don't ever tell George that.
Yeah. No, we don't want to tell George that. He already thinks they're important enough anyways. So you can hear the snare there. It's a little bit ringy. George loves snare ring, and I hate it. So I'll show you kind of what I did. I've got 2 EQs going on it. We're kind of doing a lot of fine tuning there. This first one here is really getting rid of that ring that I don't really like, and the second one is just boosting just a little bit more there. And those are just EQs, and I've got a little bit of a compression on the high end on that snare too, and then I'll add my last two here. Of course, the channel strip. That's my favorite, probably my favorite drum plug-in, and you add those together, and that's what we got. And then I also added some extra reverb and some sidechain stuff to that too. So I'll let you hear those.
Just the snare.
This is just a snare. So that's the final. That's just some extra reverb to the snare there, and then a little bit of extra compression. So I'll let you hear the kick in the snare. So then the next important part is I like the bottom snare too. We do that. I'll let you hear that too. I won't go too in depth. It's kind of doing the same thing to that as I am the regular snare, but it just adds a little bit more high end to that, to the snare. So that's just the kick snare and then the bottom snare. And then the next thing is the overhead mics. I like to go to it next, and that is where your drums are really going to come to life. This is the unprocessed overhead. So that sounds pretty good, and then I'll add these plugins. This is what we got for the final overhead. It kind of sounds really compressed when you just solo it by itself, but I'll show you what I'm doing to that. Kind of the same thing. I love these plugins for drums. It's kind of my go-to thing, and I'll just show you what I'm doing real quick to that. And then the next thing, and probably what makes your drums really sound big, are your room mics. So these are our room mics that we have set up. And I'm kind of using those same three plugins on that. And this is, I kind of said this with the overheads, but this really makes your drums sound huge and big when you do these things. So first I'm adding this little EQ, getting rid of all that low stuff. And I'm going to add some harmonics to that. And that this plugin here, adding a lot of kind of low mid-range to that to kind of make it more punchy. And then we're going to compress it and add some EQ with this SSL. So that's all the pieces. Well, I forgot about the toms. I've got the toms. I won't go too in depth on those because there's just a few hits kind of throughout the song. But I'm just adding some low end and some highs with just the channel strip. Nothing too special to that. So I'll let you hear those toms by themselves. I'll let you just hear them with the processing. So mostly there I'm just adding low end to make them come out, because our room mics and our overheads are going to really make the toms stand out too. So you don't need a whole lot of high end on those. So I'll let you hear the final, the drums again with nothing on the drum bus, and then I'll show you what I'm doing to that. Let me go back to this part here. So that sounds good, but then we got a little bit more processing left to do, and I'm going to compress it a little bit more on this master channel. And that's the SSL G bus, and then I'm going to add some more harmonics to that. And then I'm going to take away a little bit of the high end with this EQ here. So you can kind of hear what we started with and what we got there. Those are just some of the stuff that I like to do with the drums. Compression is really important when you're doing drums. It's probably the most important thing, and that's what really makes them stand out, and kind of how I like to hear them.
Now talk about just in general for guys who don't go this in depth. Talk about how you can take that vintage piece of equipment and have it in software form now, where you can, you can really make something sound authentic. Just pick one that you like.
So, just that one channel strip I kept going back to, this SSL. That's the vintage.
That's actually what it looks like.
Yeah,
right?
this is the real thing, and this is a Waves plugin. We have the Universal Audio one too. I just like this one because it's simple and it sounds really good on drums. But yeah, it sounds really close to the real thing, and I couldn't make the music sound like I want it to without these plugins. Really, all these, and this 1176 here that I've got on the snare side chain. It's another classic that every studio's got, but we have it in software version here, and it sounds really good.
As Rhett's showing you all this technical stuff, you can have every bit of this at home, but the most important part of his job is having the ears to do it. That's the main thing. Rhett has these amazing ears that he can, it's one thing to be able to pull that piece of software up, see what it's doing, but you just got to have a good ear to say, hey, I need to turn those highs down, I need to turn these lows up, I need to cut this instrument down. And we treat every track, every song we do, we give it this treatment. I mean, we treat all of them like a number one hit. And so we're very excited about TD200. We're through mixing it now. He's about to wrap it up. We're going to put the official video out. And we're excited to see what kind of ideas you guys have for it. We're going to come out with the official rules very soon. And we'd love to be able to mix something for you. And Rhett is amazing. And maybe show them one more of your favorite, like what your favorite plug-in for acoustic guitar.
I have a lot of different ones that I use on acoustic guitar. I kind of go back and forth, but I always come back to this compressor here. This is a Fairchild 660, and also another classic piece of hardware in software form here. I'll let you hear the acoustic. Here we go. So that plug-in just really makes it pop out more in the mix, and I always come back to that one. I've tried different things, but that one's probably my favorite for acoustic. And I kind of have my favorite plugins for each instrument that I go through and I listen to, and make sure when I'm mixing your song, I do that for every track in the mix. I go through and I pick the best plugins to make it sound the best in the mix, and I get it sound as good as I can for you guys.
We don't talk about a lot about the mixing process. You're always seeing us track stuff, but this is just as important to pull it all together at the end and make sure. The thing I love about Pro Tools is that every time you mix a song, you can save that awesome thing you did for an electric guitar or bass, and you've always got that. You just keep building on what you're good at, and we've done so many songs and recorded the same instruments that we really know our rooms really well, and so we love making music, and we're excited about this track. We want you to participate, figure out how to enter the contest. It's real simple. Come up with your idea for TD200 and send us an email. We're going to let you know how to enter the contest, everything you need to know about it.